That's just incredible. It really goes to the entrepreneurial spirit, really, of finding a problem and not just seeing it from inside of that problem, seeing how it affects all of the people surrounding the issue and really serving those people, not serving the problem, but serving those people.
Yeah. If you focus on the problem, you're screwed.
And welcome back to the Be Successful podcast. I am your host, Brian Elam, entrepreneurship coach, helping you to align your spirit with your business and helping you use the power of conversation to flip the marketing world on its head. Today, we have a very special guest. I am so happy to have Joy here. Joy is an amazing human being. She has accomplished so much and been through so much in her life. And I am going to have to read all of the things that she has been through in order to not mess them up. So if you see me looking down, that's why. I just want to give her all the accolades that she absolutely deserves. So Joy is a stress and trauma expert. She is an ex-corporate executive and inadvertent shaman. The amazing thing is she has actually died 6 times. And each time has been returned with different perspectives and uncommon abilities to help others. She is absolutely living proof that when it's your time to go, it's your time to go. And when it's not, it's not. She has learned how to heal herself and is certified in more than a dozen holistic healing modalities and is uniquely qualified to guide people in surviving impossible things and thriving against all odds. So Joy, welcome. I am so happy to have you here.
Thank you, Brian. It's lovely to be here.
And so I just want to dive right in. One of the things that you talk about and speak about with such authority and authenticity is stress and ways to help reduce stress for people. Specifically, we're talking entrepreneurs here. So can you go into that line of thinking, that zone of genius, and just guide us on a journey how to help reduce those stressors in our lives?
I can. I actually became a world expert on clearing stress in 3 minutes or less because it was that or die. When I was 24, I was hit by a drunk driver, and my injuries were such that anytime I went into stress, the soft tissue would swell at the base of my neck, blood would stop going to my brain, and I would have about 3 minutes before I blacked out. Now, I never knew if I would wake up from any of the blackouts, and it was a very stressful time. So I was blacking out multiple times a day at one point. And after a couple of years of intermittent oxygen deprivation, doctors said I'd be dead or brain dead by the time I was 30. And the court-appointed psychiatrist suggested that I take up basket weaving so that I could continue being a contributing member of society when I was brain dead. But instead, I took up holistic healing and became certified in more than a dozen different modalities. And as I journeyed through all of these esoteric modalities, I uncovered these epic tools and skills that completely transformed my life, like how to clear stress in minutes, how to dissolve emotional trauma painlessly, how to reprogram your brain to make it work like a supercomputer. And I actually learned how to reprogram the neurological pathways of my brain by thinking new thoughts to bypass the injuries so that I operate from an entirely, literally a higher perspective. I could no longer think forward or remember back reliably. And so I had to learn how to think up and look down, and perspective became my superpower. So at 30, instead of basket weaving, I had co-created an entirely new software support industry within the computer support industry in Australia. I was advising state and federal government. I was the first individual ever to be nominated for an IT&T Excellence Award for industry development. So if I can do that with autistic frontal lobes, imagine what you can do using the same tools with your clever brain. because I have no experience. I know nothing about computers, even to this day. And I started that company with a $30 government check that bounced. So all things are possible.
Definitely all things are possible. So when you saw that problem and realized that there could be a solution to be provided, knowing nothing about computers or the tech industry, how did that happen? Like, was it just purely perspective and seeing things from a different angle, or?
Mate, I had something that none of the men in the old boys network had, something that is rare and amazing and should be very common, but isn't. I had common sense. But yes, and also when I look at a problem, I don't see the problem per se. I look at it from here, and I was able to see the problem, the solutions, how it impacts multiple realms and dimensions, what needed to happen, the first domino that needs to get taken out so that everything changes. I'm able to see those things very easily. Do you want to know how I built the company or what? Okay, I haven't told this story for a while. So this was the early 90s, where mainframe computers were just going out and personal computers were just coming in. And for the first time in history, end users had control over their computer. Before this, for our younger viewers, if you had a problem with your computer, a little man in a white coat would come and exchange your dumb terminal, which you had no control over, give you another one, and then he would go back, because computers lived in gigantic buildings, in perfect air conditioned, and they were guarded by these strange little men who sat surrounded by Kentucky Fried Chicken boxes and Coke cans, and they could not speak to humans because they had been hired to speak to computers, and that's what they were good at. Do you remember? Are you old enough to remember this, Brian, when computers were? Probably not.
I was born in 1980, so what you are talking about was told to me by, my dad when he was seeing that come up. But my experience was when the PCs started coming into people's homes. So I can relate on some aspects, yes.
Well, I'm even older than you. I'm actually now literally twice the age any doctor said I would get to. I am 61, and I am so proud of that. Thank you very much. So yeah, their PCs weren't in homes yet. No, we're just talking about companies and large businesses and the government. So my husband at the time worked for Computerland, and he would come home every night absolutely tearing his hair out because end users could now impact their environment, and the industry was still putting out mainframe technicians. There was nobody to look after these end users. And so 45% of the energy was being consumed by people who were just sitting waiting for a technician to come and fix it for them. And it was a disaster that was waiting to happen. The entire industry was about to blow up, and none of these guys could see it because none of them had common sense. They were so used to thinking old thoughts. You cannot solve new problems with the same mind that you had to create them. You cannot create a new world if you're thinking old thoughts. So anyway, for me, it was very simple. I realized a support system had to be put in place. And so I persuaded my husband to leave Computerland and start an end user computing software support company, which we called GUI Care for the Graphical User Interface. That was our first company. And the truth of it was easier for me to do this than try and figure out my computer. I wanted an entire company that was just able to, when I could ring somebody up and go, how do I work, or talk me through without making me feel like an idiot. How can I make my computer go? Because it's making me crazy. I figured I couldn't be the only person that was having these issues. And so that's how the company was created. It was a 24-hour card. You joined this membership. When you had an issue, you'd ring up, and as soon as you gave your number, the technician on the other end would be going, Brian, how are you, mate? How's it going with your podcast? And you would be talking to a friend. part of the training was, if you can talk me through, then you're hired, without making me feel bad. And so, of course, it was a wonderful idea. And immediately we had much more business than we could possibly handle. And we needed to hire technicians, but we couldn't afford it. I started the company with a $30 check that bounced. So we had no money. But I had lots of mates lining up out the door, but I wasn't allowed to employ them. They were all on the dole, on welfare. And if they worked for anybody, they'd lose that welfare. But this was a new industry and it had to have new people. And so I sat down and I created a traineeship scheme. I'm very old school. I like apprentice style things. I think it's the best way to learn. So I created 4 specific arms of bringing people in. And I put the proposal together. I took it to the government. Look, here, give me the dole that you would give them. I will give them money to take it up to basic wage. They'll work for a year on that basic wage, learning all of the foundation stuff. Then after a year, they get to choose. Do they want to go to another company? Do they want to go into a speciality? What do they want to do then? And of course, the government said no, because that's what governments do. But you don't take no for an answer. If you've got something that you know needs to happen, you don't take no for an answer, especially not from hidebound, old toxic patriarchal systems. So every one of the computer companies around me were having exactly the same problem. They needed to hire technicians and they couldn't either hire enough because of the money situation. So I did a tour of Australia and I collected the written support of every single CEO from every major company in the land. And then I came back and said, what about now? And that is how I became the first individual ever to be nominated for an IT&T Excellence Award for Industry Development. They had no choice but to accept the traineeship scheme, and it changed the way the industry did business.
That's just incredible. It really goes to the entrepreneurial spirit, really, of finding a problem and not just seeing it from inside of that problem, seeing how it affects all of the people surrounding the issue and really serving those people, not serving the problem, but serving those people.
Yeah. If you focus on the problem, you're screwed. Okay. Understand enough about the problem and then turn all of your attention to the solution. Let the problem starve. Doesn't need your energy. Focus on the solutions. And as soon as you switch your attention, doors open that were not visible or even available to you before, because your focus was you were looking in the wrong direction. Yeah. It's common sense, not common.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true, unfortunately. And, obviously one of the things that goes along with starting any new business or any new company, any new venture, you've got stress, which brings us back to, where we did your intro, where we started, you being an expert in reducing stress and helping people deal with those issues. So obviously you would have had some stress in coming up with that business, right? So how did you deal with that, and how did you come up with these steps and systems to help people manage these stress levels?
Yeah, there wasn't any stress in coming up with there was, of course, but basic stress coming up with the systems. The stress was being completely surrounded by the old boys network who loathed me and wanted me dead and gone. But oh well. So I'm not going to lie, a large part of it was watch me, just to spite them, because it wasn't easy. I remember standing in front of a room full of high-level corporate executives from state and federal government and general corporate, and presenting them with how to clear 45% of their computer costs very, very simply and save literally billions of dollars. And what did I get? No, that's what you get when you let a woman out of the kitchen. That was the comments. That was the mentality. I walked in to the Director General of Health, which was the second highest leader in the land at the time, and presented him with these things that I was so proud of. And he said, "Do you know I've had a hard on ever since you walked in the room?" Those were the stresses, being able to stand against all odds. And if I can do it, you can do. Don't listen to people who don't have your vision. They are afraid of you. I did not create the change. I brought solutions to the change, but people are scared of change. I think about change in this way. Change is taking what you are and adding choices to it. It makes it so much easier to move around in, doesn't it?
It really does, because it gives you the freedom to explore and to understand that you're not locked in a box. You have the option to move and you know, this is something I tell people all the time. It's like, especially when you're coming up with your business idea, or your ideal client, or whatever, it's like you have permission to change your mind. Yeah.
Yes. And exercise that. My life process is one of continually evolving toward the next grandest version of myself. And so I am always perfect in my imperfection. And I highly recommend this as a process, because it takes away all of the pressure. I'm big on taking away the pressure of having to evolve or needing to be perfect or anything like that. As long as you are better than you were yesterday, as long as you are not comparing yourself to anyone outside of yourself, unless it's an assessment on what needs to happen within yourself, compare yourself with how you're doing compared to how you were doing. And when creating the next version of yourself, the next grandest version of yourself, all you have to do, as you were saying, write it down, get clear on who it is that you want to be. Who does that person surround themselves with? That's a really important one. The 5 people closest to you reflect who you are. Do you like that reflection? If you don't, then change it up, because you can. I'm not saying dump all those people, although that might be appropriate. You know, I know that you've noticed as we evolve, not everybody wants to evolve with us, and that you know, you lose a lot of people. You're making room, darlings. You're making room when that happens.
Yes, I love that. You don't have to cut them out, but you can decrease your interaction. And I love the analogy of you're making room.
It's exactly what you're doing.
Yes.
We've only got a certain amount of time, of energy, of resources. How are you going to spend them? You have to be wise with your investment of yourself. I have a book, No Worries, Mate, which money back guarantees to eliminate all worry at its source. And it too is common sense, but I use this as the foundation of how I grew my business. And I realized, you know, I've been spending an awful lot of time in worry. And if worry was on the stock market, I mean, would you invest in it? How much time do you invest right now in worrying about your business? Just take a guess from, well, not a guess, but assess it right now on a scale of 1 to 100, with 100 being like, I am fully consumed with worry, and 0 being, I don't worry at all. And just see what's your level, Brian?
That's a very good question. Right now, the number that just pops in is 45.
Fantastic. That's about standard. Mine was higher than that at the time. And so I was regularly on this knife edge with alligators snapping up my butt, and on the verge of a nervous breakdown for months, until I finally realized this is ridiculous. I've got to do something about this, or I'm just going to call for the fellas with the long white coats to just come and take me away. And so I sat down and I had a really good look at what exactly it was that I was worrying about. And I realized something deeply shocking. I realized that nothing that I had worried about had ever actually happened. I mean, the minor things like yeah, this person would get into trouble, or this deal didn't come through, or whatever. But the big things that I will not survive, none of that happened. I had spent my life worrying about things that had never happened. And then I looked at it and I realized, okay, so really there's only two things that you can worry about. You can worry about something that you can't change, which there's no point doing that because you can't change it. Or you can worry about things that you can change, and there's no point in worrying about that because you can change them. And then I looked at it, well, why am I doing this? Is this some pre-programmed thing? Because I was raised by world-class warriors, darling. I mean, we worried about things that, if we didn't have anything to worry about, we'd obviously forgotten something. And worrying meant we care. But in actual fact, all worry does is it gnaws away at you. It's not stress or pain, or these things are inevitable. It is something that drains every single resource and never gives you anything in return. And so I assessed, like you just did, okay, so how much of my energy, resources, and time is worry consuming in my business? And I came up with an embarrassing number. It was like 80%, some ridiculous thing. And then I had a thought that astounded me. I thought, what if I actually did something about these worries instead of focusing on worrying about them? What if I actually looked at the things that I can do and then did those things full on with my whole heart, and then, having done everything I can, give the rest to upstairs management and say, all right, that's yours now. If it's supposed to happen, it will. If you do this, my darling, you will free up 45% of your energy and of your time that has been invested into going down the drain and dragging you down with it, to creating positive solutions. What can you do instead? What are your resources? Make a list of your resource list, including not just people and things and stuff like that, but your own internal resources, and write those down. Which resources can I use in this situation? Oh, my darling, I became the most productive person on the planet when I did this. And that's, I attribute a lot of that to the de-worrying process. Oh my goodness, it really worked.
Wow. Yeah, it's so powerful once you step into what you can control and what you can change, and then start taking those actions. I had a similar experience where my worry scale was probably in the 90s earlier on in my life. And it was in a situation that admittedly I put myself in, but the outcome of that situation I could not control anymore. And I worried about it, and it just was eating at me, just like you said. And then I just made the decision, and I'm wondering what you think about this, or if it aligns with what you do. I just made the decision to let it go. I knew I couldn't control it. I knew I couldn't do anything about it. So I just decided to, like you said, give it away, give it to upper management, and then let it go. And that freed me, truly. Is that kind of in alignment with what you do?
Absolutely. As long as you do your part, because a lot of people, I'm not saying you're one of them, but a lot of these new age people are just like, oh, I shall just leave it. I shall let it all go. And that's lovely. But look, here's the thing. If you're watching this, then chances are you're a conscious type entrepreneur. Am I right? You've got yeah. Okay. So what if you were the incarnate member of your team, and that your guides and your guardians are all present because you guaranteed a grand adventure? What if the ideas that you have in your mind have been placed there because they're supposed to come through you? And what if, as the incarnate member of the team, your job is to do all of the things that the person in the body does, the things that your guides are not able to do because they don't have a body? When we stop messing with what's theirs to do, which we suck at, it's everything to do with how is their job.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing. Our job is to submit the invoice to upstairs management and completely release the need to control how it happens. And there's no waiting. You don't say, oh, well, I'll just sit around and get relaxed now. No, that's not it. What you do then is prepare, knowing that what you've asked for is on its way. And if you're anything like me, it will just not look anything like you thought it would look.
Usually doesn't.
No, because you know how we like surprises.
That's something I say all the time is, humans make plans and God laughs.
It's true. She has a very warped sense of humor. So yeah, our job is to submit the invoice, release the need to control how, and then get busy preparing for what it is that we've asked for and following the clues. Darling, life is like a treasure hunt, especially when you're in business. One follows each clue to the next clue, and each egg has a clue, and you can't skip them because you'll miss important information. And if all you do is that, just stay focused in the moment, listening for instructions on a moment-to-moment basis, which is really the only way that they can come, the instructions, free from the pollution of the energy of the planet. When you find yourself freaking out, take that moment to stop. I have survived all of the things that I have survived, in part by being exclusively in the moment, which I have a huge advantage over everybody with that, because autistic frontal lobes can't think forward, remember back. I'm a master of being in the moment. So that's how I have a happy life, because that's what will guarantee a happy life. And I know when I've stepped out of the moment because my face looks like this. And when I recognize that, I look down at my feet and I notice I've got one foot in the past, fretting about it, and one foot in the future, stressing about it. And neither one of my feet is in the present moment, which is the only place that they can move me forward. So I take a deep breath and I bring myself back to the moment. And then I look around to notice things that I hadn't noticed before. Do it now. In this moment, ask yourself this question if you're having a wee panic, because it's a bit of a stressful time right now. In this moment, do you have what you need? I mean, you're watching this on an electronic device. Maybe you've got a roof over your head. Maybe you've got food in your fridge, clothes on your back. Do you have in this moment what it is that you need? What about this moment? What about this moment? It's always this moment. You just need to breathe, come back to the present, and extend your awareness to notice new things. After the doctors gave up on me, so I walked with death for 18 months, and we got to be good mates. When you wake up in the morning and you don't know whether or not you're going to see the end of the day, it changes your priorities, Brian. It does. I got to look and go, okay, so if I did die today, what am I going to take to God as the sum total of everything that I did? Hey, look at all the money I made, God. What do you think? No. Look at all the glass ceilings I busted through. I never hurt anybody consciously doing it. No. All the houses, all the profit. Suddenly, everything that I had thought was so impressive just didn't look so crash hot when I imagined taking it to God as the sum total. And so I sat with myself until I found something that I would be proud to take. And it was, I made each life that I touched more joyful. And that's what I founded my life on. Create for yourself a mission statement. But first ask, if you did die today, and there's no guarantees that you won't, what will you take to God? What are you proudest of? How have you been spending your life? What have you been investing in? Right? These are important questions. Death taught me about the difference between important and urgent by having me look at, well, is this going to matter at the end of your life? What do you want as your legacy? Lead your business from that place in your heart, and you will succeed in more ways than you can imagine.
that was powerful. Like that spoke and resonated with me. Absolutely. Yes. 100% agreed. That's one of the things that I'm doing and working on and helping my clients with going forward, is having that spirit aligned business and leading from the heart, just as you said. So thank you for putting that message out and repeating it.
No worries, mate. Common sense. Yeah. I knew you'd be teaching that. It's so important.
Yeah, it definitely is so important, as is everything else that you shared here with us today. So Joy, it has been a real pleasure speaking with you and learning from you. And if my audience wants to connect with you further, maybe get No Worries Mate or the other book about stress that you have produced, where would they find you? Where is the best way to go more deeply with you?
So I'm going to give your listeners a gift. If you go to experiencejoy.com, you can remember that, and type in your email, I'll send you a 15-minute video that shows you how to relax instantly, keep a clear head no matter what is going on, and clear stress from your body. And here's the deal. You measure your stress on a scale of 1 to 100 before you begin the video. Then you do the simple tools with me and measure them again afterwards. And when you find out how well they work, share it. Everyone needs to know these tools. We're living in a very stressful world, but you don't have to be a stress statistic. So come on over to experiencejoy.com. I'll hook you up.
Excellent. Perfect. I love that you've got a tool there to help people get more insight on themselves and invite them back again to reevaluate and, of course, to connect with you on a deeper level. So, guys, if you have stress in your life, you're dealing with what you think might be impossible situations, this amazing human being, Joy, is here to help you with that. And I invite you to go deeper with her. I will leave her link in the description below. So click on that link. Go seek her.
If you're dealing with impossible situations, book a private session. I guarantee immediate positive results with my work, or it's free. And I work with people all over the world. So Zoom puts us in the room. So thank you so much for that, Brian. Yeah, there's a lot of people dealing with impossible situations right now. And I am the queen of triumphing over tragedy. I can hook you up.
Yes, as demonstrated by your incredible story. So yes, again, go seek her out, experiencejoy.com. Joy, it was an absolute pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you so much for everything you shared.
You're so welcome, Brian. Have a great day.
Thank you. You as well. Thanks so much, guys, for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like. Please give it a comment. Let me know what your biggest takeaway was from this amazing entrepreneur's interview. And if you want to see more videos just like the one you watched, click right up here because they're exactly what you need to see next. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.